Hi, YouTube. Okay, let's get right into it. The third spending personality that I would see, I would call this one the small luxury spender. Typically, these are individuals who earn under the median income for the United States. And while they may not be earning high incomes, they still want to be able to enjoy some of the finer things in life. And they recognize that they are not able to buy a house and maybe a new car, and so they gravitate towards smaller items in a way to compensate for this and to still treat themselves. And so in their mind, they are indulging on these small, more affordable items, and they're not really high ticket items. And so they tend to justify it with being able to treat themselves with these items. So these would be the individuals that you would kind of see on the cable Hammer show, where he'd be going through their finances and they'd be swiping their credit card on quite a few items, like whether it be like coffees and fast food takeout, just stopping at a local convenience store, or Sephora. These would just be smaller ticket items that, when looked at individually, they are not high in cost, but they do represent a good amount of the individual's disposable income, such to the point that they may be spending more on their wants than on their needs without even realizing it. So the characteristics of this individual is someone who seeks instant gratification. They're looking for the here and the now and try to add some moments of pleasure in their daily life, which is understandable. They want to treat themselves, and they end up being big on justifying their spending. Hey, I deserve it. This isn't that much. I can't afford a house, so I got to live for the here and the now. And you only live once. And so they're trying to, just enjoy the small little pleasures of life. Nothing wrong with that. But the problem with this is it can be a lot of frequent incremental spending, and it can add up. And these individuals tend to not realize how much they're spending. They're not as financially aware as other individuals' spending personalities. This one tends to be more of putting their head in the sand. They very much try not to think about it when it comes to spending. And so they could be blindsided by the end of the month when they run out of money, or they could have spent more on wants that there's not enough left at the end of the month to spend on needs. I'm looking down at my notes. So it's a $5 coffee here, $30 dinner there. Nothing too extravagant. But it does, when you look at the overall and you zone out on the spending, it is quite a bit of spending when it comes to the end of the month. There may not be much of money left over. And the lack of their financial spending may get them to avoid looking at what they're spending. This spending personality also tends to be a little bit more emotional when it comes to spending, and their moods affect their spending. So if they're bored, they go out and spend a little bit. If they are happy, they may go out and spend a little bit. So they equate spending with happiness and improving their mood. And that has a backhand effect on them, because it can actually put more burden on this individual. Because then all of a sudden they realize that, at the end of the month, they are struggling, and they may not be able to come up with the money to make their car payment, or they don't have the money to be on time with their rent. So it's a big financial burden on this kind of individual spending. And they also tend to rely heavily on credit, and they can get themselves into trouble and lean more towards the personality that spends a high reliance on credit. And so they can have a recurring credit balance. They're not able to save, and they are not able to invest, because they're spending all their money on these small incremental expenditures. And so over time, they have missed opportunities for financial growth, they live for the here and the now, and in their mind, it's just, they're a little bit more negative when it comes to their finances. So they tend to think of, oh, I deserve it, and you only live once, kind of in their spending. And they also avoid trying to look at their finances. Sometimes it just causes too much stress for them, and so and they feel guilty when they realize that they spent all their money. And so that financial stress and burden can really have an overall effect, and it creates this cycle of spending, because again, their spending tends to be more around their moods, and so it creates a cycle of constant incremental spending, because they can't seem to dig themselves out of it, because they continue to spend, and so therefore the mood swing spending happens. So this person's tendency on their smaller things in life really does affect their overall finances, and so they're never going to be able to, even on a small income, you can still save and build up wealth. It doesn't take a lot of income to build wealth, but what happens is, if you are spending all your money and on daily on things, and before you know it, if you're spending $30 a day, that's quite a bit of money spent for someone who is on the lower income of the spectrum for earning, that therefore they could be now really, really scared where to come up with the rest of the money for their bills. Anyway, if you recognize yourself in this, you really do have to be a little bit more diligent and more careful, and open up your banking statements and really be cognizant of the money you're spending on your wants versus your needs, and try to prioritize spending first on your needs to make sure that you put the money aside that you need. Figure out what your run rate is. Figure out, what does it cost for me to live my life, to pay my bills every month? What is my rent? What is my car payment? What is my car insurance? Look at those bills and figure out the amount that you need to set aside for that each month, or for each week. If you're getting paid bi-weekly, then each week that you need to put aside, and then allocate the smaller amount of money that you should be spending on wants. And that may help you break the cycle of this constant incremental spending. Anyway, I hope if you found this interesting that you hit the like and you consider subscribing. I'll go into more spender personalities on future videos. And thank you for tuning in, and look forward to reading your comments. Take care for now.